Hello, you are listening to the OmniTalk Fast 5, brought to you in partnership with the A&M Consumer and Retail Group, Firework, Trigo, Sezzle, and Silk. Ranked in the top 10% of all podcasts globally, the OmniTalk Fast 5 podcast is a podcast that we hope makes you feel a little smarter, but most importantly, a little happier each week, too. Today is January 19th, 2023. I'm your host, Ann Mazinga.
And I'm Chris Walton.
We are here once again to discuss all of the top headlines making waves in the world of omnichannel retailing.
No place I'd rather be in. No place I'd rather be than here with you after NRF. Talking about the headlines, making waves. In the world of omnichannel retailing.
Chris, it's not just you and I. Today.
I know. It's even better.
We've spent so much time together in the last 5 days, so I think this is probably a welcomed entry into the OmniTalk world. But joining us today and back for their regular monthly appearance are friends at the A&M Consumer and Retail Group, Jonathan Sharp and Michael Prendergast. Welcome back, Jonathan and Michael. We're so glad to have you. I want to go right to it. Michael, will you kick off and tell the audience who you are and what you do at A&M?
Sure, and thank you. Great to be back. I'm Michael Prendergast. I'm a managing director in the consumer and retail practice at A&M. I've been in the fashion and retail space for over 25 years, and that's my background.
Excellent. Thanks for being here, Michael. Jonathan, your turn. Tell us about you and what you do at A&M.
Hello, nice to see you both again. Also managing director at A&M, maybe even more than 25 years in retail.
Wow.
A lot of that time in grocery. I tend to do a lot of work in the commercial space, and I also lead on consumer insights at A&M.
Well, we are really excited to have both of you today.
Yeah. I was loving Jonathan's on the show too. Jonathan, what number show is this for you? It's got to be like 5, 6, 7.
I think it might be 5.
5. Wow.
Do I get a card in the mail at 10 or something?
You might.
You get a curly whirly is what you get.
Yes, I remember that discussion.
That we will import. Import from the UK and then send back to you. Yeah,
which is typical of how retailers are operating right now, actually, too. So, all right, well, let's get into it. Today's Fast 5 headlines are brought to you with the help and support of our partner, Shoptalk. Shoptalk continues to expand their lineup of keynote speakers, announcing Foot Locker CEO Mary Dillon this week. She's joining an incredible list, including Judith McKenna, Walmart's international president and CEO, the CEOs of Chewy, Pinterest, Levi's, Ulta Beauty, Tapestry, who are the owners of Coach, Kate Spade, and Stuart Weitzman. And Anne, you're hearing it first, loyal OmniTalk fans. You're hearing it first on OmniTalk. There's also a big senior executive for Google. I actually went on to check out who it is. It's pretty big. You can see who it is at shoptalk.com/US/OmniTalk. That's shoptalk.com/US/OmniTalk. And remember to make sure you're registered by March 3rd.
Yes.
See you there and come and say hello. We want to see you. All right. In today's Fast 5, we've got news on Starbucks going national with DoorDash, Rent the Runway building its own storefront on Amazon, Wakefern and Trigo opening their first checkout-free store in the United States, Portillo is making its drive-thrus cashless to improve employee safety. We're going to have fun talking about that one. But we begin today with news out of Walmart. And
let's do it. All right. Headline number 1, Chris. That is right. Walmart and Salesforce are teaming up. According to CNBC, Walmart announced a deal with Salesforce last week to help it ramp up the sales of Go Local delivery service, which drops off purchases at customers' doors, and Store Assist, which helps employees more quickly and accurately pick and pack orders for curbside pickup and delivery. Starting this spring, the services will be offered through Salesforce and listed in its app store for businesses. Jonathan, we're going to go to you first, my friend. Number 5 timer. What do you think about this move from Walmart? Do you think it's significant news or just more PR gloss keeping up with the Amazon race kind of talk?
Well, I think both things might be true, right? I'm sure there's a bit of PR gloss. Well, I think there's a bit of PR gloss to it, I'm sure, perhaps more on the part of Salesforce than on the part of Walmart. But I do think the Amazon race and the way in which Walmart is tackling that is quite a big story in retail. I think a little bit of a big sleeper story, which we may get to the end of 23, 24 and look back and say, oh, actually, did we see that coming? Did we see a legacy retailer who 5 years ago people said were was kind of looking at its deathbed because of the emergence of Amazon. Did we actually see how successfully it was fighting back?
Right.
And, they've put so many pillars in place in the last 2 years to chisel away at the Amazon advantage, to chisel away at the Prime advantage, particularly amongst those who hadn't already subscribed to Prime. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that I found interesting here is, I mean, when I read it, this was a bit of kind of Amazon Web Services meets dunnhumby kind of thing going on. We shouldn't forget what a margin engine Amazon Web Services has been for Amazon. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I thought was, this is kind of the new version of general merchandise. General merchandise used to be the margin enhancer that allows you to be price competitive in grocery. This is the new technology version of general merchandise. It's a margin pool that allows them to then be competitive in the sort of the grocery and the product side of things. So the whole kind of growing your margin potential out of services and technology, I think, is very smart. One other thing I'd say is it's also in a sweet spot, particularly in that sort of digital store ops, smart picking, deployment of labor. It's an area where retailers, particularly regional grocers, regional retailers who want to get into digital and delivery, really, really struggle. And it's also a space that Amazon doesn't really have a product offering. So it's quite neat.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. That mix component is very interesting. The merchandising mix, the new angle, the mix is really interesting, Jonathan. I love that.
Michael, what are your thoughts here? Anything you'd add?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with what Jonathan outlined. And I think it's a terrific move for Walmart, and building on the thought that everyone has counted Walmart out with the advent of Amazon. I think that they've been quietly behind the scenes building a growth and progressive story that in the long run will definitely benefit them as a corporation. They're massive, and they move sometimes not as a massive entity. This is a very progressive, forward-looking move by them, and I love it. I think the other interesting thing is, and this is a little bit diabolical, but they are now going to be providing services to retailers, definitely in the US, maybe globally. So it becomes sort of a Trojan horse where they get inside the building, where there are retailers that may not be doing such a great job. They now have Walmart technology as some of their pillars. What does that future look like? Does that make a transaction or an acquisition easier for Walmart to do because of the partnerships that they're creating? So I think it's terrific across the board. And I definitely think Walmart is an entity to pay close attention to and not count out.
Right. Yeah. Same thing that Amazon's been gathering from so many retailers for years. So it makes sense. But Chris, I know you've got some thoughts on this too.
I'm curious if we're all going to resolutely agree on this one. I mean, I actually love this a lot. We had the chance to interview John Furner at NRF this week. We were his first interview he and Matthew Shea did from the conference. And it was awesome because there were a couple of points I took away from it. One was he said, I'm paraphrasing him here. He said it differently. And you might remember how he said it, but he said, you're only as faithful as your options, which means they're hungry. They know they're going to fight like hell to keep what they've got. And the loyalty of their customers is really front and center for them, which I extrapolated to also being my big takeaway from the show. What I extrapolated from was, this is the show me the money year. I'm going to keep saying that. It's the show me the money year on tech investment. And so I like this move for another reason too, because when you take your own tech and you try to put it in the marketplace, you are eating what you cook in terms of your ability to get scale and to get value out of your own tech. And so I think that is a really smart move. The question I have is, why aren't we seeing more retailers do this? Like, if you're a top 10 retailer, I don't know why you're not taking this approach. We've talked to Target. We've asked them. They said it's not even on their roadmap when I've had those discussions with them. And that baffles my mind. Michael or Jonathan, I think Jonathan mentioned Kroger. Like, they've done a great job of this through a number of years. If you're that big, you should be doing this because it's going to make your own tech that much better.
Right. I agree. I mean, I think this was something that was part of the consistent messaging that I felt like was coming out of NRF, whether it's, big technology companies like SAP, Oracle, all these companies and Salesforce included are selling this idea of like, how can we bring more things online so that it's simpler for the retailers that are using our platform to just plug and play these things. And so I think that's a key theme we're going to see is, how many of these tech companies can bring some of this technology from startup size, like we heard at SAP with their small team that's working with startups to bring them into the SAP ecosystems to solve the problems that retailers have. How much of that can they bring in-house and have one unified system that's helping support all of these retailers with one platform? All right, Chris, let's go to headline number 2. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Headline number 2, Starbucks plans to offer delivery via DoorDash nationwide by March of 2023. According to Chain Store Age, on Wednesday, January 17th, which was yesterday.
Yes.
The coffee giant began offering online delivery via DoorDash actually Wednesday was the 18th. So that article was incorrect. And yeah, so I apologize for that, OmniTalk fans. The coffee giant, regardless, began offering online delivery this week via DoorDash in Northern California, Texas, Georgia, Florida, and other select markets, and plans to expand the service to additional markets over the coming months. In the US, customers will be able to have access to Starbucks delivery via DoorDash on iOS and Android devices, in addition to the DoorDash website. This is important. The monthly DoorDash Dash Pass membership program, say that 10 times fast, also means Starbucks customers pay $0 in delivery fees when ordering through DoorDash. Michael, my question for you is this. Is the Dash Pass smartly becoming DoorDash's own very formidable version of Amazon Prime? What are we looking at here?
Well, I think the Dash Pass is interesting, and yes, it can absolutely lead down that road.
Ooh, cool.
And I like it a lot. The thing I don't like, and I'm a little bit salty about this based on personal experience, is it's about time. Like, how come Starbucks has not been on DoorDash, and why are they not more complete on Uber Eats?
Wow.
Right.
And full disclosure, though, it's based on doing projects in places like the Midwest and not being able to get effective Starbucks delivery at 5:30 p.m. when you have to work till 11 p.m. at night.
Yeah.
But this to me feels like for Starbucks, them catching up to the future that's already existed for a few years. However, I do like the advances that DoorDash is making with their pass, and I actually think DoorDash and Uber Eats need to have sort of a second and third round of innovations, both from a user interface standpoint and a delivery quality standpoint. I don't think their delivery qualities are fantastic. And at this point in the game, they've captured such a large share of the markets. They should be fantastic across the board.
Yeah, interesting. Anne, let's go to you next. What do you think here?
So I love this.
You do?
I think
I figured you would.
It's so brilliant. I was joking with Ship's Rena Hurst, Ship, when are you going to you're doing curbside pickup Starbucks? Like, when are you going to start bringing that out through
at Target,
Ship,
right?
At Target, yeah. And so I'm going to bring up one other thing. So at NRF, Chris, Target's head of food and beverage, Rick Gomez, said in one of his sessions that the number 2 item that is ordered from the Target and Starbucks pickup partnership that they just did are cake pops.
Oh, 100%. Doesn't surprise me at all.
It doesn't surprise me, but this is what it changed for me, and what I think is important about, because I think Starbucks is really the one here who I'm focused on, not so much DoorDash. And that is that Starbucks has found an opportunity through curbside pickup and now through DoorDash, through curbside pickup with Target and now through DoorDash, to create a new type of shopping experience for a parent. Now you are giving me an experience, a reason to choose Target, to choose DoorDash, because it's not just about me getting my coffee when I'm picking it up as a parent. Now it's about my kid and I are having an experience together. We get excited about going to Target together to pick up that order, because now it's this surprise and delight moment that we get to have together, which is one of the reasons that you choose to go to a shopping destination or choose to use a shopping app. And I think that that's another thing here, that as Starbucks continues to perfect delivery, little things like making sure that, you have the stickers covering the seal so that the coffee's hot when it arrives, that there's, new types of like delivery carriers like we saw with Starbucks curbside pickup. I think as Starbucks continues to expand and perfect delivery, this is going to continue to catapult Starbucks as one of those trip drivers, even more so than it already is. So you
basically, net, you like the move from Starbucks, particularly in terms of how they're increasing their distribution across pickup capabilities with big retailers like Target.
Exactly.
Through this partnership with DoorDash, you think it creates new moments as a parent with the cake pop, which I'm gonna definitely do that. I think try this out.
Yeah,
Jonathan, are you gonna continue the streak of all of us agreeing with each other? Or are we gonna get some debate in this show here soon?
I don't know if I'm going to agree or disagree. I'm just going to make a different point. I'm going to ignore your question, Chris.
Okay, that's fine. I would expect that from you.
I tell you what I thought when I read this was I thought 100 years from now, retail archaeologists go digging through artifacts, right? And they'll find this. They'll find this news story. And I think they will say that is the moment that work from home replaced the third space.
Oh, wow.
5 years ago, remember?
That's deep, actually.
We weren't going to go into offices, but we were going to be going into a third space. We were all going to be doing our work in Starbucks stores. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
And then this little thing called COVID happened. And then I think this is kind of the archetype of work from home is crystallized. Starbucks now has to come to you. It has to grow its network to come to you.
Yeah.
I think it's a marker.
Yeah. Wow. That's really interesting. God, you got me thinking about like hotels. Like everyone in hotels is gonna have a Dash Pass now because like and they're gonna be just delivering coffee en masse from Starbucks every morning at all these hotels. For me, I liked it. And the reason I posed the question the way I did was the value of the Dash Pass seems to be getting more compelling every week we do this show. Yeah. Like last week we had the returns thing. There's of course the delivery component that's ongoing. But it's also, and that's also why I wore this hat today, Anne, which we haven't talked about yet, but I wore my Buy with Prime hat.
I can see that.
Because I think also what's fine, what it got me thinking about last night, and I'm curious how you guys think about this too, is like, what's the value of my Prime membership anymore when I get right down to it? Like 2-day delivery for me, it's not that compelling anymore. So like the move to Buy with Prime could be. And so I was kind of thinking like, as cool as we made Buy with Prime sound last week, it's almost like a necessity now for Amazon to make that work, to keep driving the value here. Because for the first time in my life, I was actually questioning, why do I have this? And I don't know if you guys feel the same way. And Michael, I saw you shaking your head. What were you thinking there to that comment?
Yeah, well, I thought you were taking it to a different place. I think this will be the first time we can debate today. I actually think the value of the Prime membership is exceptionally undervalued. The convenience that it has placed on my life and the premium that I am willing to pay for that is extraordinarily more than what I'm paying for my Prime membership.
Right.
I've gotten to a place, and I'm in the retail business. I'm technically a retailer, so I understand the numbers. And it's like it's not a good. It's terrific for the consumer. Let's put it that way. And I don't have to go to a mall. I can get whatever I want. In certain cases, I can order a stack of legal pads and it shows up at my house the same day. I mean, that is fantastic. Not profitable for Amazon. So what that looks like down the road is sort of a different story. But I think the Prime membership is actually wildly undervalued for the premium that it provides me in my life.
Interesting. Jonathan.
Well, I was going to say until DoorDash does Thursday Night Football or the Premier
Right, but that's a good question. Like, where does it go into those realms at some point? I don't know.
I mean, I do think we underestimate the content value of Amazon Prime, and I don't think you'll miss it. You won't miss it until it's gone, right? And it's not just in the US. I mean, I said Premier League for a reason, right? Which is they now have a whole tranche of the English Premier League. They have a bunch of rugby, which is my sport. So, I'm not as exciting as Michael ordering legal pads on a Thursday. But I do like my football and my rugby.
I think you're right. The media part is key.
You bring up a great point, though. I mean, the content access through Amazon Prime is absolutely ridiculous. So what is that worth? I mean, think about what you used to pay, and I'm going to date myself, but when you used to go and rent a VHS from Blockbuster.
Right.
I mean, think about the amount of times that you're procuring content through Amazon Prime and what you're paying for it. And it's pretty remarkable.
But the interesting thing is we're not saying delivery is what is captivating us necessarily, potentially. And so I think that's interesting. But in the interest of time, let's keep rolling, Ann.
Yeah, we're going to keep talking about Amazon here because headline number 3 is that Rent the Runway has opened an online storefront on Amazon. So according to Retail Dive, Amazon customers can purchase items from Rent the Runway's designer exclusive as well as secondhand garments retired from its rental service. The move comes after Rent the Runway laid off about a quarter of its workforce in September and announced a new focus on profitability, which is I'm sorry. I have to stop.
You have to pause here for a second, don't you?
We were reading the story yesterday in the airport, Chris. We were prepping for the show, and I was like, I'm sorry. Wait, now the new focus after you've been a company around for how many years? Like 2023, let's be profitable. I don't know. Okay, Michael, I'm going to go into a major diatribe if I don't go to you next. So, Michael, what are your thoughts here?
That's all right. I might go into the same diatribe, so cut me off if I go too deep. This answer is so complex, it's incredible. I mean, look, Real, Rent the Runway, even Stitch Fix, they came onto the scene and they were basically the brightest stars that the retail business has seen in years. Yeah. And I'm saying that with quotations around that. That was the perception in the marketplace. However, their performance has been an absolute disaster when you look at it. You look at the stock price of Real. I mean, that's the perfect one. And I know we're talking about Rent the Runway and Amazon, but it was an interesting concept. Renting product or reselling product. Interesting from an ESG benefit standpoint. However, it's really not been successful, and no one can really figure out from an operating standpoint how to run it. And if you look behind the curtain and you start understanding the technology complexities, the SKU complexity, and the operational complexities that exist, it becomes sort of this question mark of, can anybody ever really be successful with it? Now, what's been happening, I think Amazon dipping its toe or actually jumping into this market is fascinating. When they did the partnership with What Goes Around Comes Around, I thought that was a monumental marker, as Jonathan was mentioning before. I also think this is interesting because Amazon basically now sees it as an opportunity to capture front-end business that they cannot do on their own, especially with What Goes Around Comes Around. However, they are an absolute gorilla in the marketplace operationally behind the scenes. So all of a sudden now, do these partnerships with the front end being Rent the Runway and What Goes Around Comes Around, and I'm sure they're going to do more, plugged into the Amazon machine, start to turn it into a profitable entity? It might, but at the same time, it might not. As we were talking about before with Amazon, clearly they're not super focused on profit. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out. But in a very long-winded way, I love the move by Amazon. I think Rent the Runway and What Goes Around Turns Around, What Goes Around Comes Around should actually be worried about the partnership and the future of their own longevities.
Interesting.
Chris, what are your thoughts here?
Oh, wow. Going to me next. Well, I mean, Michael kind of summed it up pretty well there. I mean, for me, I don't really get the move on Rent the Runway's part, honestly. I wonder if they're going to piss off the brands they're working with, if you're going to start selling them on Amazon's like hunt, seek, and destroy search, online experience too. Like no brand that they work with that's high end is going to want to be on that experience.
Right.
So I question the value of it. So ultimately, to me, going back to your point about the new focus on profitability, it honestly seems super desperate. I think we might have had Jonathan on the show too. I can't remember if or somebody from A&M, we were talking about Gap going on. I think this is totally different, and that's why I don't like it.
Yeah, Jonathan, what are your thoughts here? You're nodding along.
Well, I thought I think this is a bit of a sort of mini trend, isn't it? Which is retail innovation, which sort of bursts bright, but then struggles for distribution or struggles for customer acquisition, goes and clings to the Amazon life raft. And in a way, it's extremely smart of Amazon, right? Because they basically bolster out the Amazon offering, picking up segment after segment after segment. And to our earlier discussion about the value of Prime, the value of Prime is, apart from Thursday Night Football, the value of Prime is as many of your needs fulfilled in one place. And this is just another example of it. But there's a huge asymmetry of power here, right? You've got a struggling innovation,
right?
You've got an acquisition and distribution monster.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think what we're hearing here, and this kind of echoes my sentiments about this too, is that, it makes sense to try to leverage the operational backbone of Amazon to make this business more profitable. You're certainly opening the aperture here of people who can find Rent the Runway product, who can leverage their Prime benefits in order to get that product sooner. But my question here, and another part that we haven't discussed in this conversation so far, is that Amazon keeps talking about how they're really trying to get this to get luxury to take off on Amazon. And I still think, I don't know that this is where Amazon, like this doesn't help Amazon get more people shopping luxury on the platform. I just don't
100%.
see it. You're just not going to see people, going to Amazon and typing Diane von Furstenberg. Like that's just not going to happen. The only way, and this is a long shot, Chris and I talked about this in depth yesterday, but the only way I can start to see like a luxury consumer really going to Amazon in this capacity might be if they start to bring that secondhand or pre-worn apparel, designer and luxury apparel from Rent the Runway into Amazon's fashion stores, and really having that be a destination instead of the typical consignment shops that, we have no idea what's in there. It's always a treasure hunt when you get in there. But if you could, know with certainty, there are 6 different gowns in my size at my local Amazon fashion, and I can go there and execute and try something on and then walk away with something instead of, ordering 2 things from Rent the Runway. There's a possibility there, but the amount of struggle and work to actually make that happen here is, I think, a long haul for Amazon. So I don't know that we'll actually see that happening.
Right. I mean, I think there could be a there, but it gets back to the point of Michael said too, like, can you make the current model work? And then if you do that, does that become even more difficult as well?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Ann, let's keep on rolling.
Go ahead, Michael.
Well, Ann, you just made me think of this. If you look at the what goes around comes around partnership,
right
there, and you think, it made me think of The House of Gucci, the movie.
Yeah.
When Al Pacino's character, there was a dirty little secret that most of the Gucci business in the US was counterfeit, but they knew it and they were happy with it. So the question I ask is this a way for the luxury brands to basically start to grow their businesses with a dirty little secret kind of under the covers of doing the business? Now there's a third party in between, but it's still more revenue. So it'll be very interesting too to see if they eventually get over the Amazon hump and plug into it.
Ooh.
Could be, may not be, but we'll see.
That's a good little twist. I like that, Michael. Chris, let's go on to headline number 4.
All right, Ann, I'd love to, but before we get to headline number 4, fresh off NRF in New York City, I want to tell you about another trade show we are both planning to attend, you loyal OmniTalk fans, and that is Home Delivery World. Home Delivery World is the largest free supply chain and retail logistics conference and expo, and it is this June 14th and 15th in Philadelphia. It's free to attend. It will have over 350 exhibitors, all showcasing cutting-edge retail logistics solutions to well over 7,000 attendees. Man, that show is growing. Just head to terrapin.com/home delivery world to register now. That's Terrapin, TERRAPINN.com/home delivery world to register. All right, headline number 4. According to Winsight Grocery Business, Wakefern Food Corp held a ribbon cutting ceremony on Monday for its latest shop called The Pantry, a frictionless convenience store for the workers at its Edison, New Jersey campus, featuring Trigo's AI-based technology. Open to only workers from Wakefern office buildings, The Pantry uses computer vision with a series of cameras and shelf centers to identify products such as snacks, salads, pantry staples, groceries, and prepared foods. I always love the pantry staple. Wakefern is the first U.S. company to test Trigo's technology, which is already deployed in several locations around Europe and the U.K. Jonathan, given that you are very close to some of Trigo's first installations in Europe, being that you are in London, what is the significance of this announcement in your mind?
Well, Chris, it's even better than that. I'm from London and I'm sitting in New Jersey. So, I mean, I've got it all covered, right? Wakefern down the road.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yes.
Yeah, come on. I'm very disappointed they didn't invite me to the ribbon cutting, given I'm a local. But anyhow.
And you have,
that's
and
right. I forgot you're in Jersey.
Something tells me, Jonathan, you have your own giant scissors stored somewhere away up in your office.
I do, exactly. And my royal wave for every ribbon.
BYOS. Yes. Yeah. Jonathan will be there.
So what do I make of this? Well, first of all, I think the particularly interesting thing about this is it's a kind of a demonstration of how you sell technology in a franchise model, right? Because this is about Trigo and kind of Wakefern Center trying to create a pull amongst their franchisees for why they would want to invest and deploy the technology. It's not quite as simple as picking a store, running a trial, and then expanding it across an estate if you don't own that estate. So, I mean, that was the primary thing that struck me, was it's this sort of two-step approach to deployment, which then does raise a question for me about how quick is it therefore going to be? Right? Because, franchisees, particularly sort of family structure franchisees, they have a different view of kind of lifetime value. They have a different view of kind of payoff periods. There will be a sort of very varied appeal amongst that group. That said, the thing that I did chuckle at was I noticed that Wakefern is immediately on Trigo's landing page on their website. Right. So, it's Tesco, Reva, Netto, and now Wakefern. So they're either very confident about a bunch of franchisees already signed up, or they're very confident about how compelling the demo store is going to be. But the thing I'll be watching will be speed. It's just very difficult in that franchise environment.
Right. That's a great point. Yeah, that's the new wrinkle here, is that, and I mean, first of all, they actually got that type of setup to commit to this too, which is interesting in of itself. Anne, what do you think?
I think this is the big story here, even though, this is just an employee-owned store right now, or employee-only store, is that Trigo is now here on U.S. soil. Like Jonathan said, the Wakefern logo is on the website. And I think that plays into, for me, what Dave Ritter from A&M on our end of the year show last year said, that, there may be another non-Amazon provider that's doing a full scale just walk out grocery store in 2023. And from what we've seen so far at what Trigo's done in Europe and some of the, especially under like very complex regulatory settings, like in Germany, for example, right, they have the capacity to pull this off, to be that first full-size grocery store in the U.S. with Wakefern here.
Yeah, I mean, I know Dave Ritter thinks, I think he said on the annual show, he thinks it's going to be a good bango. Trigo's, trying to line up the resources to do it as well, as it appears from this story. Michael, what do you think here? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I think it's the future. So a frictionless environment in grocery store turning into frictionless environment in retail. We're headed there. Whoever can get there first and figure it out and then expand it and then have the others follow, I think is going to be wildly successful. But I love the idea. I think it's truly future of the retail business, or major part of the retail business.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have much to add here beyond what the three of you have said. I mean, the only other point I'd bring up too is U.S. retailers are creatures of habit. We talk about this on the show all the time. So I'm not surprised to see the first U.S. one of the first U.S. grocers take the same approach that they basically deployed with Trigo and Tesco in Europe. They went to the company store first, then shortly thereafter they rolled it out to an actual operating grocery store in market or something like that. And I have no idea if that's the case, but to Jonathan's point about them promoting on the website, you have to wonder if that's in play here or if it won't. And Trigo's track record is pretty good too. Relatively speaking, amongst these providers, they're one of the few that I can point to who has consistently continued to roll out with the people they're doing business with. They've rolled out more with Revo. They've rolled out more with Tesco. They've announced more plans to roll out with Aldi already. That's something to watch. So I think the fact, to your point, that this is the first one in the US for arguably the best provider in Europe right now is something to watch.
All right, let's go on to headline number 5. So Portillo's is making its drive-thrus cashless, Chris.
Ooh, cashless.
You got to bring your card when you're getting your dog. Okay.
Okay. Yes, of course.
According to Restaurant
Always
Drive.
do, man. Always do.
According to Restaurant Drive, the chain, which has over 70 units across 9 states, stopped accepting cash payments at its drive-thrus beginning Monday, January 16th. The shift is intended to improve safety of the staff, according to Portillo's CEO, Michael Osenloo.
Osenloo, I guess. Yeah.
I hope I said your name right, Michael. Which was quoted. He was quoted in Restaurant Dive. He said, quote, "Workers across the restaurant industry have been robbed or threatened at gunpoint or knife point on the job," end quote. Yeah. Yowzer.
The setup does sound kind of dangerous when you get down to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cash will, however, still be accepted within the walls of the restaurant itself. Jonathan, let's go to you first here. What's your take on this story? Poor drive-through people getting robbed at knife and gunpoint. That sounds awful.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of something no one should go to work, fear
Right.
it. And, if you run a team in retail or in hospitality, and you think that's a risk, you do everything you can to mitigate it. So I absolutely get that motivation. And to Chris's point, their model is not all of their team are sort of within the booth or behind the screen, right? They've got people at the menu board able to direct you and, of course, trade you up as well. So they are particularly vulnerable. That said, I'm pretty sure that the real lead here is actually buried a little bit further in the story around what it does to speed of transactions,
right?
And kind of clearly what that does to the economics of drive-through, right? Not to mention the savings you get from cash handling costs and all those sorts of things. And so, to that extent, if we sort of put to one side the safety issue, which is very real, and I'm sure was the trigger for this. If we put that to one side, this is just another example of the move to cashless, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit consistent with the conversation we just had around digital walkout stores, right? Is all of these points of friction are being removed by technology enablement. And what that's doing to costs for these retailers is potentially very significant. I do think, by the way, there's a major social question around employment in retail. We shouldn't ignore how significant an employer the retail and hospitality sector is in the US. I mean, that's for another day. That's another question. Businesses have to maximize their profit. I completely understand that. And this is, I think, one of the major sort of trends that we're seeing, and here it is playing out again.
Yeah, Chris, what are you seeing here? Like, are your thoughts consistent with what Jonathan's saying?
Yeah, I think they are. And it's funny. I was thinking about that same angle Jonathan was talking about this morning as I was thinking about this too, because there's going to be a negative sales impact from not taking cash to your drive-through. And so it's got to be a big pill to swallow unless there's other operational efficiencies that you're thinking you're going to gain from this. My question is really like, where does this go next? I think we're going to see more of it. A lot of the quick serve restaurants have gone to this model, especially in the pandemic, as curbside pickup and everything else has become just that much more prevalent. Like Chick-fil-A has I feel like 600 people outside in its drive-through lanes, right? As an example. But the question for me is like, do governments continue to allow it? Like, does it push into the store? Did the store itself only become cashless? And do the governments locally allow this to happen? We know in New York, you were required to still take cash, which is going to be an important part of the rollout story, potentially with, the Wakefern, depending on where they start to deploy those stores and everything. So that's my thing. I mean, I think we'll see more of this, but there's a lot of things that we have as a society have to come to grips with for us to do this in the right way.
Michael, any thoughts here from your side?
No, I mean, I agree with everything Jonathan and Chris just said. I think just from a safety standpoint, we obviously talk to senior leaders in the retail business. They're all hyper focused on employee safety to a point where two CEOs recently separately had told me, we tell the employees to give them what they ask for and basically give them the keys to the register.
Right.
So I think this is a great move to protect employees. But to Jonathan's point, you have a lot of operational benefits. And then from a futures focused standpoint, it's heading towards cashless. So it's definitely a first mover.
I have a question, you guys. Okay. One, I have a problem with there still being cash accepted inside if safety, like Jonathan's saying, is really the concern. Because aren't you still putting the associates then that are working inside the store in danger? Because now that's where all the cash is going. It's not separated by drive-through window and like checkout lane.
It's a little bit of a conflict too, because if you're accepting inside, you don't avoid the operational efficiency of not having a cash drop that evening.
Exactly. Well, and then
it feels like it's a first step. It's like the first line of defense is let's do it outside. Let's see how that goes.
See the impact.
That does not have a negative impact on our business, let's then do it inside. And that sounds like also they're dancing around the governmental issues that Chris was bringing up too, like kind of testing the waters.
Right. That's a great point.
And lastly, like, again, I'm going back to where do we best serve the human workforce in quick service restaurants? The cash thing for me too is like, is it not possible to still take cash through some kind of cash, in like machine? Like, can't you just put cash in, dispense the change? Like, I feel like there's technology that should be able to support this so that you can still take cash, you can take cards, but you're removing the safety, or you're considering the safety of the people working in that restaurant so that they don't have to handle the money or be the go or the in between there in those situations. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. There's a lot of operational hangups that come with any of that stuff too. You know,
Right.
like having to put cash into. I mean, how many times have we put the cash in the dispenser and it comes back like bill cannot be read? You know, like we've all been through that nightmare. And imagine that in a drive-through too. That scenario would be unmanageable if you stop and think about it. So as easy as it sounds, I think the point that we come back to, it feels like to me, like I agree with you guys. Like it's first step. We'll see where it goes next.
Right. All right. Let's go to the lightning round.
Let's do it.
All right. Question 1 goes to you, Jonathan. Target and Lego are kicking off a partnership to allow consumers to send in their used Legos so that another child may enjoy them. Jonathan, I want to know, if you had to guess, what do you think the most surprising thing that it will be that Lego might find in some of these returned Lego packages?
Well, I don't know if the first one's a surprise on the basis of my experience with my kids. There's bound to be a whole bunch of kind of Skittles and candies.
Skittles, right.
I mean, and the red ones in particular, you're going to think, what do I build with this? You're going to think they're part of the Lego, right? I guess the other thing that would be ironic would be if you found someone's stubbed toe in there, because, did their toe actually come off and stick to the Lego?
A toenail?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh my God. That's so disgusting.
So true.
But nice to know the red Skittles are the ones that are the most easily hidden within the Lego bin. All right, Michael, let's keep going. Pizza Hut is bringing back the Big New Yorker for a limited time only beginning February 1st. My question for you is, are you okay with this, or do you think this move should be more permanent?
I love it. I think it's a branded iconic item that's part of Pizza Hut's heritage and kind of immediately inspires you to go out and get one. I think the interesting thing is that, do they use this as a pulsing in to create excitement for their customer base, or should they be turning it into a long-term core item that they bring back into the stable? Not really sure. I think the results will kind of point them in that certain direction.
Well, I'm going to be ordering.
I'm excited actually about it. Yeah,
let's
for sure.
do it. All right, Michael, we're going back to you for question number 3. Volumental, a fit technology, just announced their partnership with Under Armour, where customers inside Under Armour stores will be able to step on a Volumental plate, scan their feet, and be served up the specific products that will best fit their feet. What is one category you hate shopping for that you think a 3D scan could help with?
Yeah, this one's kind of a layup. I mean, shoes,
right?
Whether it's dress shoes or sneakers.
Right. So they're on the right track.
Yeah,
they're on the right track. I love this one too. I mean, look, it's so volatile, the fit standards across brands. Sometimes you're a 10, sometimes you're a 10.5, sometimes you're a 9.5. And then also the actual structure and fundamental underlying construction of the soles is different, so different across brands. So whether you have a high arch or a low arch, it makes it very difficult to shop for shoes effectively. So I think obviously footwear is a great place to start.
Absolutely.
So Michael's all in on shoes. All right, Jonathan, we're gonna get you out of here on this. This is one of my favorite all-time questions. Actor John LaRoquette, famous for Night Court, admitted he was paid in weed for his role in the 1974 horror classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Jonathan, my question for you is, what is the strangest thing you have ever accepted in exchange for any of your services?
Any of my services?
Yes.
Wow. Well, it's not narcotics, so that's okay.
Yet. No.
Yeah. Yes. Who knows who's listening?
Maybe when you retire, Jonathan. Yeah.
So I guess I do have one, which is a long time ago in my career, to do someone a favor, a kind of a pro bono or low bono kind of piece of work. My payment was tickets to a soccer World Cup match in France. It was England versus Argentina. I think it was round of 16. For those of you old enough and into soccer enough to remember it, it was an amazing match. Michael Owen scored a wonder goal. Yeah. Beckham got sent off. through some very devious Argentinian tactics, actually. And it's a very famous World Cup match. So actually, I came out pretty well.
Yeah.
What year was that? Was it 98 or
France 98? Yeah.
98. Nice. Very nice. That sounds awesome, man. What smart trade, man. I think you got the better end of that deal too.
That one worked out well.
All right. Well, thanks you both for joining us today. Michael, Jonathan, if people want to get in touch with you, learn more about A&M, get their potentially enlist your help on solving some of the complex questions we discussed today, what's the best way for them to do that? Michael?
Email. You can email me at mprendergast@alvarezmarçal.com, or you can go to our website, which is www.alvarezmarçal-crg.com, and you can find either Jonathan or myself or any of the other senior leaders there, and lots of information about us too.
All right. Well, that wraps us up. Happy birthday today to Dolly Parton. Can you believe it's Dolly Parton's birthday?
She's 77.
Is she really? No, I didn't know that, actually. That's pretty amazing. Katie Seagal?
Yeah.
From Married with Children. And to the woman who helped to put The Sopranos next on my binge watch list, Andrea De Matteo. Fun name to say. And remember, if you can only read or listen to one retail blog in the business, make it OmniTalk. Our Fast Five podcast is the quickest, fastest rundown of all the week's top news. And our twice weekly newsletter tells you the top 5 things you need to know each day, and also comes with a special content that is exclusive to us, and we do it all just for you. And we try really hard to make it all fit within the preview pane of your inbox. You can sign up today at www.omnitalk.blog. Thanks as always for listening in. Please remember to like and leave us a review wherever you happen to listen to your podcast or on YouTube. And on behalf of the A&M Consumer and Retail Group and all of us here at OmniTalk, as always, be careful out there.
The OmniTalk Fast 5 is brought to you in association with the A&M Consumer and Retail Group. The A&M Consumer and Retail Group is a management consulting firm that tackles the most complex challenges and advances its clients, people, and communities toward their maximum potential. CRG brings the experience, tools, and operator-like pragmatism to help retailers and consumer products companies be on the right side of disruption. And Firework. Firework is the largest video commerce solution built for the world's leading brands. They empower brands with shoppable and live stream video on their own websites where people like to shop. Put your commerce in motion with Firework. You can find out more at firework.com. And Trigo. Trigo technology powers grocery stores with market-leading frictionless checkout and digitized operations. To learn more, visit trigoretail.com. And Sezzle. Sezzle is an innovative buy now, pay later solution that allows shoppers to split purchases into 4 interest-free payments over 6 weeks. To learn more, visit Sezzle.com. And finally, Silk. The Silk Cloud DB virtualization platform is a virtualization layer between your workloads and the cloud. Helps you scale your cloud without scaling your costs. Visit silk.us to learn more.